The Italian film industry of the 70s and 80s had a motto: if it's a hit in Hollywood, we can do it cheaper and way weirder. This entire list is dedicated to films like that. So let's get started. Other space movies had bigger budgets and a cleaner look, but they couldn't match this kind of wild energy. I mean, you won't find Amazons on horseback in most of them. Director Luigi Cozzi has always maintained the idea was independent of Star Wars, yet Starcrash opens with a very familiar spaceship shot. And yes, there are laser swords involved. Still, it aims just as high. There's a sweeping score by an Oscar-winning composer and characters that are truly larger than life. Take the villain, for example, played by Joe Spinell. He laughs his way through the entire film while planning to rule the universe, all while backed by glowing red creatures that look like they drifted out of a lava lamp. Meanwhile, Caroline Munro spends much of the runtime in a leather bikini, even when she's in prison. It's kitschy, it leans into it completely, and that's exactly why it works. Starcrash wasn't alone. The Humanoid arrived soon after. A powerful villain named Lord Graal escapes from exile and steals a substance called Capitron. He has it fired at the ship of an officer named Golob, turning him into an indestructible, super-strong warrior. A control device is placed on his forehead, and he is sent to assassinate the ruler known as the Great Brother. The parallels are not subtle. There's a dark, masked figure who looks suspiciously like Darth Vader. Massive starships glide over the camera in a very familiar fashion. Tiny fighters get blasted in sequences that clearly echo earlier space battles. The tone is pure juvenile fantasy. The script moves slowly and never aims for depth. Still, compared to many other space knockoffs from the same period, this one is not bad, and the sets are actually surprisingly good. In 1979, Ridley Scott changed everything with Alien. Just 1 year later, we got the brilliant rip-off Contamination. The director, by the way, was Luigi Cozzi. A cargo ship drifts into New York Harbor with its entire crew dead. In the cargo area, investigators find crates of coffee hiding strange green eggs. One cracks open, a splash of toxic slime, and people explode. The eggs turn out to be alien. A former astronaut, a military officer, and a detective trace them to a coffee facility in Colombia, where more of the creatures are being bred and prepared for distribution. The tone is cheap and pulpy. It leans heavily into gore and never tries to be profound. But if this is your kind of movie, it delivers enough splatter and strange moments to keep you watching. Now, don't confuse this with the previous film. This is a completely different project. In Italy, it was released as Alien 2 on Earth, openly positioning itself as an unofficial sequel despite having no connection to the original. In the States, it was later retitled Alien Terror. The story follows a group of cave explorers, one of whom picks up a glowing blue rock on the way to the caverns. In the prologue, we learn this rock arrived on Earth via a doomed space mission. Once they're inside the cave, things unravel fast. That rock is actually an egg, and it releases a creature that implants itself into one of the explorers. The alien grows inside her and eventually bursts out. Not through the chest, mind you, but through her face. This is classic low-budget Italian horror and sci-fi, a perfect snapshot of its era and a pretty fun watch. The Bronx Warriors didn't stop at borrowing from just one movie. You can clearly spot elements of Mad Max 2, Escape from New York, and The Warriors. A corporation hires a killer to move through the Bronx, eliminate gang leaders, and track down a kidnapped girl. It doesn't have the best dialogue or the best acting, but it has a good overall look to the film. And if you enjoy this, there's also Bronx Warriors 2 from 1983, which many consider the stronger sequel. 2019. After the Fall of New York took almost the same set of influences. The story follows a drifter sent into ruined New York to find the last fertile woman on Earth. Along the way, he teams up with a claw-handed former teacher, an eye-patch-wearing cyborg, and a massive brute known as Big Ape. The villains look like they wandered in from a street gang movie. The costumes scream early 80s. The effects are cheap and unapologetic. But despite all that, the film moves fast and keeps things fun. It's pure guilty pleasure. At first glance, Hands of Steel looks like a total Terminator ripoff, but it takes that killer cyborg idea somewhere completely unexpected. A programmed assassin develops a conscience and goes on the run. Instead of a high-tech showdown, he ends up in the Arizona desert, hiding out in roadside bars. And what does a fugitive cyborg do to pass the time? Arm wrestling. Yes, this is a movie about a cyborg who ends up arm wrestling in a bar while being hunted by the people who created him. It's wild and unpredictable. And as far as cyborg assassin arm wrestling movies go, this one is hard to beat. Director Bruno Mattei didn't bother with modesty. He released Shocking Dark in Italy under the title Terminator 2, long before Cameron's sequel hit theaters. Of course, there's no actual connection. The story follows a team of soldiers sent into an underground facility beneath a future Venice, which has been devastated by a toxic disaster. Once inside, they run into hostile creatures and quickly find themselves fighting for survival. It recreates scenes from James Cameron's classics on a fraction of the budget. The military setup, the dark corridors, the creature attacks. It all feels very familiar. But if you know what you're getting into, Shocking Dark is entertaining in its own strange way. Finally, we have Endgame, another Mad Max imitator set in the ruined future of New York. The year is 2025. A nuclear disaster has left the city overrun with mutants and scavengers, all hunted by an elite survival cast. At the heart of the story is a brutal game show where gladiators fight to the death for public entertainment. A telepathic mutant recruits one of these fighters, and together they attempt to lead her people to safety. The film mixes post-apocalyptic wastelands, motorcycle chases, and armed gangs into one low-budget action package. If you're in the mood for dystopian chaos, Endgame gets the job done.